Well, hi, everybody. This is DearMamaSal. And if you haven't joined a broadcast before, first of all, big hello and welcome. I just want to explain a little bit about how we do the broadcast, just so that you are aware and you can use the best of your time. What we do when we do these broadcasts is we start off with a little bit of news and views for people because some people get to go to one broadcast and others go to another. And so what we try and do is make sure everybody gets updated about the viewers. We're quite a close-knit group of people. And then we get on to the main topic. And the main topic today will be soul work. And you will find at on the notes underneath here two things. Number one, it will say from 00 to whatever. This is the news and updates. And then from another time, this is the topic. So if you just want the topic and not the updates, then you go directly to that time that I will list below. The other thing you need to know if you're new to the broadcast is when I have finished the broadcast, within probably 5 or 10 minutes, I will disconnect any viewing of the chat that went on. Although you will hear me refer to it, nobody will be able to see your name or anything else that you might want to keep private. The people that I will quote are people that are regulars and have given me permission to talk about anything. If they put it up, they know that, 9 times out of 10, I will talk about it. And if I have any doubt about it, I will ask them. All right, so welcome to Charlotte, who says her soul work journal in hand and she's ready. Hi there, Charlotte. And I hope it's not as hot where you are as it is here. And it is in the mid-80s, whatever that is in centigrade. I would say the mid-20s in my house. And it's like, what shall I say? There is no movement of air. It is just solid. So if you see me get a nice glow to my skin, you'll know why. All right. So I am delighted to be able to say that I am just working with a couple of screens and then I'll be able to really start. Just bear with me because I can't do this until I am actually on air. So it's always a frustration to me. So bear with me one split second. And Charlotte, I don't know. I'm sure I did tell you, but you know that I saw Dougie yesterday, and he spends his life looking after people like you. You do know that. That's what he does. He organizes big marathons and looks after everybody there. Hi there, Jody. Jody, I found out that I actually have found out how to get the proper link. So you don't have to worry about that anymore. Yes, 10K Dougie. All right. So Jody, did you ever hear about 10K Dougie? It's one of those stories where if you haven't heard it, you need to. Yeah, that's a good memory, Charlotte. You will never forget that, right? And for those of you who are watching on the replay and wondering why I'm laughing so much, one of my adopted sons, he adopted me many years ago. He works with the big marathons that happen here in Vancouver. And they had a team event that they decided to do. And at the last moment, somebody fell. Yeah, you're going to love this one, Jody. Anyway, somebody fell sick. And they went to Dougie and they said, Dougie, do you think you could join us? Because, we're short a member now. Now, you understand Dougie had done no training. He didn't even have runners. He didn't have the right shoes. And he had absolutely done nothing to prepare for what was a 10K event, not 5, but 10. And the most incredible thing was he not only ran, he said round about halfway, he wondered why he'd been so stupid and said yes. About 3/4 of the way there, he was actually, hi Jonas, he was actually wondering whether he would his lungs were going to physically explode and whether he was going to be able to actually live through it. But he was one of the few of the team that actually finished. So, yes, Jonas, I was just going to talk about that in a second. So if you could imagine it, Jody, this totally no training whatsoever. Dougie just went and did a 10K and finished, and ahead of teammates that had been in training for 6 months. So that's my chuckle for the day. There are no birthdays this week. This is obviously not a popular week. So I thought I'd just mention that. Yeah, it was, but it was so funny. And of course, Charlotte would remember it because she's a runner. She knows what it takes to prepare for an event like that. And so I just want to, Jonas is busy saying absolutely wonderful, all right, that the children and their coach were rescued. So sad that we lost the one diver who was delivering oxygen and didn't have enough for himself. I mean, that to me is really so ironic, that he was actually delivering oxygen and then he ran out. I mean, that is so sad to my mind. By the way, my thoughts and prayers go out to everybody from Croatia, because if you are a football fan, you will know that they lost the World Cup today. And, all credit to France because they won the World Cup today. And I would say that it was an incredibly high-scoring game, probably the highest scoring since England won it many, many years ago, back in 1969 or something. But a very high-scoring game, which made it fun to watch. And yes, I did watch part of it, not all of it. So I thought I would just mention that. And Lauren, Jody, I don't think we got an update on Lauren's sister. Am I right? The last I heard, she definitely wasn't doing very well. So if you've heard anything more that you think we can repeat, let me know. Yeah, no update. That's right. But she is not doing, she was doing well. She was going to be going home. And then the next thing was she was not doing well. So we're still waiting for an update. And I definitely will get it to you. I forgot to put that up in thoughts and prayers. But Jody, if you could just make a note of that for me. Some of you will know that congrats to Pat and Bill. They became grandparents to baby boy Gage, as in Green Gage. He weighed just over, what was it, 7 pounds, 1 ounce, I think. And so, obviously, Bill and Pat are absolutely ecstatic and over the moon. Everybody's doing well. That's their second grandchild, I believe. And also, happy anniversary to Taylor. Jodie's dog has been living with her for a year now, so I thought that was a cute anniversary, and we should keep it in there. And actually, if you could make a note of that for me, so that it automatically comes up on my system, Jodie, that would be awesome. All right. I'm certain I've forgotten somebody, so if you remember, Erin's doing okay. We're still waiting for lab results, I think. I wanted to give myself a pat on the back. You remember those boxes I was trying to get downstairs? Well, I was heart shocked because, there, Erin, you hear me talking about you. Anyway, so I wanted to get these boxes downstairs, and I was saying to everybody, don't worry, because Dougie's coming on Saturday and he'll take them down for me. So the thing was that he contacted me and said, could I meet him somewhere for lunch? Because we were going to have lunch together. And I'm going, no, So in that split second, I hesitated. I don't know if you've ever done that. I just went, oh, okay. And then so when I had lunch with him, I said, I want to explain why I hesitated. And I said, I have these boxes that needed to go into the garage, and I was looking forward to you coming to visit me so that you could do that for me. So the good news was that Yvonne popped up to talk to me about something. I had already taken the box. I found out if you've got a heavy box and you need to get it down some stairs, slide the box down the stairs. Does that make sense to everybody? Just get it at the right angle and just slide it down. I literally walked backwards down my staircase and just quietly pulled it after me. And I, just was at the right length that it could do it quite easily. And then Yvonne came to chat with me today, and she helped me take them from the bottom of the stairs into the garage. So it worked. And I was going to unpack them and take the bits, small amount at a time, rather than tell you guys that I hadn't done what I said I was going to. But I managed to get it exactly where it needed to go. And I thought you'd also probably like to know that I was out and about yesterday. Just hold on one second here. I was out and about yesterday, and I not only went and had lunch with Dougie, but I also went and had a look at another toy hauler and another regular fifth wheel, that it wasn't a toy hauler. And I'm still doing the research on that. And I was pleasantly surprised with one that I found. So that's really interesting to me. So the thing is, though, that it means that I would have to purchase a unit that's already in the place where I want to go and throw the unit out and put a new one in. Next week, I'm going to go and look at single wide type mobile homes, if you like. You can put a single wide into these lots. You can't put a double wide. So I want to go and have a look and see, okay, fine, how much does it cost me to have just a little cottage, sort of, a tiny house type thing, and with bells on, of course. So we will see how that works. Somehow or other, I find that the big fifth wheels don't feel like a tiny house to me. Do you know what I mean? The tiny houses feel really small to me, and yet these don't. These, I think, because they're 40 feet long. It's amazing. You know something, Jody? I'm doing the extensive research because I really want to make sure that I don't go, I wish I'd checked on this before I did this. So that's why I am trying to make sure. Jody, how is your creative stuff? That's what I wanted to ask. Because that was your thing you were going to do this week. So did you get anything done? And I apologize for not hounding you on that, because I was going to do that and I didn't. While Jody is typing her response to that, if you happen to be ghosting at the moment, and it's quite all right if you are, and for those of you who don't know what that is, that means that they are listening to what's going on, but not actually in the room itself. Or if you're watching this on the replay, I just want to let you know that if you've got a story you want to tell, maybe you don't want any names attached to it, just let me know that. But if you've got a subject you'd like us to discuss as a group, feel free to write to me at DearMamaSal@gmail.com, and just, make sure you let me know that you would rather I didn't mention your name. We did a great case study on Friday. Somebody had written to me about some parental abuse that was going on. And what I did was I didn't discuss the person. I did mention that she was from Asia, but I didn't, because that was important to the story, and the fact that people needed to know she wouldn't necessarily have access to the same support systems that we might have in North America. So just let me know and write to me. And if you literally want some input on anything, just feel free to write to me as well. The one thing I will say to people is I believe I have just about got back to everybody who has ever written to me. Sometimes it takes me a bit longer if I get a lot of mail, but I really do try and make a point, the same as I try and make a point of answering anybody who makes a comment. So if you're listening to this or watching this and you're thinking, oh, I won't bother to make a comment, she probably doesn't read them. Yes, I do. And not only do I read them, but I also answer them. Jody says on her cross-stitching, no progress yet, just cleaning and organizing. My hands have been hurting too badly to hold a needle for my cross-stitch. I have plans for it during the coming week. All right, so I'm pretty sure if I said to Jody, my hands were hurting too much to hold a needle, let me try and think what she would tell me, because she's very considerate. She would tell me if they hurt that much, you probably shouldn't be holding a needle. And then she'd probably ask me if I'd taken my meds. So she's very smart, Jody lady. All right, so we're going to do a time check for 15:30 here, Jody. And we are going to start doing a little bit of soul work. For those of you who haven't done soul work with us before, I read out a quote, from a soul work type book that I've got with some beautiful quotes in it. And then what we do is we discuss how that feels to us. And, that can change. If you listen to the same quote next week, your answer probably would be totally different. And that's okay. So what we want to do, though, is do your own work. This is not about that's what I think. This is about what does it bring up for you? And, let's talk about that. So the first one is quoting from Eileen Caddy, and I quote her quite a bit. It says, "Be at peace and see a clear pattern and plan running through, a clear pattern and plan running through your lives. Nothing is by chance." Hi, Melissa. Be at peace and see a clear pattern and plan running through all your lives. I like the way it says plural. So obviously she believes there is an afterlife. Nothing is by chance. How many of you believe that to be true? How many of you believe that there is a reason for you being here? Hi, Amy. Welcome. And Amy, thank you so much for letting us put up the picture. It was great to have a picture of you up there, even if it was taken a little while ago. Yes, I think, this is the whole thing that, if you believe that, and that's funny enough, Jody, in terms of what you were saying about the research I've been doing, the reason I'm taking it slowly is I believe I'm meant to. I'm not meant to stress myself out over this. I'm just meant to do it. Okay, so Charlotte's saying it's a matter of perspective. You get what you give. So if you are at peace and you don't worry about pass and fail, I think life is a lot better. Charlotte, one of the things that I've always admired you for is your goal is to compete. And, if you can knock a couple of minutes off your previous time, that's fine. But I also see that you don't get all wigged out if you don't beat your previous best, right? For you, the goal is to compete. And I really get a sense of that. And I admire you for that. I think all too often in life, we do too many things where we think we've got to be the best at it. And we've got, if I can't be good at it, I don't want to do it at all. And I actually have said that to a number of people about doing my artwork. Hang on a second. I've got oops. I was doing a few more trivets this week. And, this is not about, it has to be brilliant. It's just like, does it give me pleasure? And if it gives me pleasure, then that's good. And if it doesn't, I paint over. So how many of you know that you push yourself into, to try and beat perfection and end up not enjoying what you do? And you probably have words like, if the job's worth doing, it's worth doing well, running through your mind. I actually don't do that. When I paint, I go, I am doing this for my own amusement and peace of mind. I don't have to satisfy anybody else but me. So that is being at peace. You know what I mean? It's like, it's okay, fine. If it ends up a total mess, I'm happy. If I waste all the paint, it's okay. All right, so take a deep breath. This one is from, how many of you have read the book, The Prophet? Often quoted at weddings, funny enough, by Gilbran. Cahill Gilbrain. If you, oh, Bill Gilbran, I think it's pronounced. But I want to tell you that there's, I've got the book here. It's probably packed away now, but it's just wonderful. Oh, Erin's saying, be the job big or small, do it well or not at all. Yeah. You know something? And I think, you'll forgive me for this, Erin, because I adore your daddy. But I think it takes a lot of the pleasure out of things when we get. I understand why. I understand why those sayings came about. But boy, they certainly took the pleasure out of a lot of things, didn't they? All right, so this is quoting from the prophet from Gilbran. When love beckons you to follow, follow him. Though his ways are hard and steep, and when his wings enfold you, yield to him. Though the sword hidden among his pinions may wound you, and when he speaks to you, believe in him. Though his voice may shatter your dreams as the north wind lays waste the garden. Hi, Mike. How many of you know that the actual joy of being in love brings with it the pain of being in love? How many of you have been through that in your life? And I got lots of T-shirts on that one. But what Gilbrain is saying, love brings with it, all right? Love brings with it both joy and pain. And it doesn't matter whether it's a romantic love or whether it is a love for a pet, all right? Some of us have been devastated because your pet. I mean, I think those of you who've known me for a while, right? I never dreamt that Bean would only last 8 years. That was not in my understanding when I rescued him. I thought I would have probably 15 years with him. And, it didn't happen. And so, there was great pain, but I must tell you that I am so grateful for the love that I got to share with him. Mike, I don't cast on Vaughn anymore because it was so glitchy and I got totally fed up with the number of glitches. It was just like every time I was in there, we had glitches. People couldn't get in. It was getting more and more difficult. And it's just like, no, I need something a bit more. And, for years, it wasn't a problem, but it became a problem. And I don't know why, nor did I get any communication from him. So, this is just like, okay. I have to think about how painful it is for my viewers, and do the easiest thing. Yeah. All right. But Mike, thank you for finding us on here. Oh, it's not a case of I don't care for him. That wasn't it. I didn't think that he acknowledged the casters very well. Yeah, you know what I mean? Because it was like, there was never a plan for those of us who brought him the viewership. And so that was sad. Yes, and Jonas is saying, when my cat died, I thought I'd rather that she still be here. Wow, is that right? And not know her at all than have loved her and have her not here. So you would rather not have met her at all? Is that what you're saying? Or was that just in your grief? Because I understand if you said it in grief in that split second, but when I look back, I wouldn't have missed a moment with Bean. You know what I mean? Yeah, of course. And we all send you a big hug on that one, Jonas, because a lot of us know that grief. It's like, is it worth going through the pain? And the answer is, you bet it is. I'm probably going to get myself a new puppy when I move. Yes, and I quote my friend Marnie, whose father taught her that people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And that's, it's really important. And that goes with pets as well, but not normally for a lifetime. All right, so this is a lovely quote, and it came from Helen Keller. You all know who Helen Keller was? Or do any of you not know who Helen Keller was? Let's put it that way. And she said, life is either a daring adventure or nothing. And I wonder if that brings up anything for any of you. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing. And the question I guess I want to ask is, how many of you have found that your lives have become a little humdrum? That there's nothing like a daring adventure, that daring adventure would not actually describe your life right now. Oh, and by the way, Jody, can you just make a note for me about Kerry and her car, just so that I remember to mention that. For those of you who don't know, Kerry, I think she'd blown her transmission on her car. We're not sure, but that's what she thinks has happened. So that's devastating for her. It's going to really be awkward for her with work and everything else. So let's give her some thoughts and prayers here. Yes, Erin, you've got some plans that you might be doing things that will be a big adventure, right? And if you do, you may wish that why did I do this to myself? I'm pretty sure, Erin, that when I do the move, I'll probably be going, why did I agree to downsize by this much? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I will get to that place. But the truth is, because I've got to do it anyway, so I might as well do it now. And this is a quote, so just hear this one and see how you feel about it. There is no situation that could ever confront you that cannot be solved. Life takes on real meaning when you set values for yourself. Regard yourself as worthwhile and elevate your thoughts to things that are of God, good things. There is a higher power, excuse me, there is a higher power. Turn to it and use it. It is yours for the asking. And I know a lot of you do believe that. Yes, Charlotte is busy reminding us of what happened to her last year. She was left on her own on a group hike. For some reason, she ended up away from the main pack, and they didn't realize she was missing. And she was considered lost in the park. It was quite an adventure, she says. Yeah, it was a scary moment, I'm sure, but you managed your way through it, as usual. Oh, interesting. Jonas is saying, I've just realized that I'm 18 and out of school and at the peak of my freedom. So I have to force myself to make plans. Who told you you have to force yourself to make plans, Jonas? Yes, Erin. And, exactly. I agree with you that, she's saying, I'm pretty sure I'll wonder why a couple of times. But, when she's this plan that she has in place that I can't discuss with you yet, but, these things, that it's when, what somebody said to me, you are living if you still plan things, right? You are living if you have hopes and dreams. If you don't have any hopes or dreams left, then that is not living, that's surviving. So do you understand? It doesn't matter how small it is, Jody, like doing the creative things, right? That's a plan. Next week, I'm going to get creative, and I'll take whatever painkillers I need to, and da 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 da. And I am just going to be creative, even if it's for 15 minutes, because that's what I want to do. You see, that brings out endorphins. There's something about that really helps us. Jonas, I think, right, and Jonas, can I quote what you just said, Jonas? Because I think a lot of people would relate to that. And I just want to make sure that I can put your name to it. I don't want to just presume that. Mm-hmm. So Jonas, who is 18, said, he was saying about making plans, that he has to force himself to make some plans. And he said, otherwise, I just sit around all day and do nothing and likely get depressed. How many of you relate to that one? That the reason you set little goals for yourself and plans for yourself is so that you don't spend too much time sitting around thinking. Or how many of you understand this one, sitting around playing video games? That your only sense of achievement is when you play a video game. Yeah, that's, you've got to be careful of that. No, you haven't got to be. You might want to be, as Jonas is. Yeah, so I think like anything in life, I don't say that people don't play video games, because I do. But I have a certain time of the day that I allow myself to play video games. And I try not to play during the day. If it's sort of my bedtime or the time that I start to wind down, I allow myself an hour or so to do that. So just be aware of that. We create, in my view, I think a lot of us create our own depression. Yes, Melissa is saying it's all fine as long as you have time management. In other words, don't allow, if you're sitting there all day, that's not time management. If you use it as a reward, if I can get the boxes downstairs before the broadcast, I can play after the broadcast. That to me is a reward. Yeah. But, Melissa, what you're saying is priorities first, and I understand that. But, how many of us have done that where literally nothing, it feels like a priority anymore? I want to tell you, having become retired, things are not the priorities that they used to be. You don't actually have to do the wash at the weekend. You can do it all during the week if you want to. You don't have to do a lot of things, all right? The priorities are not the same. I find that it's just like, I don't have to be asleep by midnight, And so sometimes I find myself still awake at 4:00 in the morning, but then I don't have to get up at a given time either. This is my life now. And so, life is very different when you're retired. I've got to tell you a fun story. I had this young person showing me units that I was looking at yesterday. And I know that you guys can see the picture of this because you're creative people. But, here he was, and he was walking me to go and see the big toy hauler. I actually wanted to see this one toy hauler called the Seismic. And it's like a 40-foot long thing with a deck that comes out the back and a deck that comes out the side. And I've seen this thing time and time again, but I wanted to get inside one and feel what was it like inside. And by the way, it is gorgeous. And so I was on my way to see this thing, and the guy is walking. It was really hot here yesterday. And so I'm walking with this guy, and we're about 3/4 to where I gathered we needed to be. And I said to him, by the way, how old are you? And he looked a bit embarrassed, and he said 23. And I said, that would make sense. And he said, what? And I said, well, you see, you're walking like a 23-year-old, and it must be such fun. And I said, but I'm walking like a 23-year-old at 70. It's not so much fun for me. And it was so funny because the guy went, I am so sorry. And I went, no, it's just, I thought I'd mention it. I said, because, it really gets very messy when you have a client who drops down dead of a heart attack just because it's so hot and you're going so fast. And he went, I'm so sorry. That's quite all right. How many of you can see me doing that? No, perfectly straight face. Yeah, that would make sense. By the way, that whole thing about how many of you believe in that ask and you shall receive? I wanted to talk about that because when I was having lunch with Dougie, he was saying to me, "Where's the breakfast menu?" He picked the restaurant, by the way. "Where's the breakfast menu?" And I said, "Douglas, I don't know how to tell you this, but you invited me to lunch, not breakfast. You see, it's lunchtime, and that's why you can't see the breakfast menu." And he went, "Oh, Anyway, but the funny thing was when the server came, I said, "Why don't you ask if they can whip you up a quick breakfast? I know they haven't got the menu here because they're not really cooking it, but maybe they do a special because you're such a nice person, with the, as Jody would say, the $1 million smile going, you would, wouldn't you?" And guess what? He said, "Could you make me the skillet, with da 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 da?" And she said, "Sure." So that's what I said to Dougie, which is, ask and you got a 50% chance that if you do it nicely, you got a 50% chance that they will say yes. And I think it's important that we remember that. I don't know about the rest of you, but there are times when I say to myself, yeah, I know that's not what they're meant to be doing, but, I'm not regular people. So maybe they'll do it for me. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, I know they shouldn't be serving breakfast at this time, but I'm not regular people, so maybe they'll do it for me. And I ask, I just, the worst that can happen is they can say no. But most times people will say, "Sure, we'll make a plan for you. And thank you so much." And make sure you give them a tip that makes it worth their while. So, all right, so here we go. This one you all know because we talk about it regularly. Trials are but lessons that you failed to learn, presented yet again. So where you made a faulty choice before, you can now make a better one. And thus escape all pain that you chose before. And thus escape all the pain that you chose before. And how many of you are going, "I cannot believe this is happening in my life again"? I know that I used to say that about my relationships. How come I keep attracting these same people? And I'm going, it took me years to realize I wasn't attracting the same people. I kept picking the same people. This wasn't about them. It was about me. And unless I stopped looking for those qualities in men, I was going to continue to get the sort of people in my life that I had. And it was just like, I mean, how many times did I get that wrong before I realized it actually was under my control? I just had to stop picking men with those qualities. Unfortunately, never mind. Life was not as exciting after that, but it definitely was a lot easier on me. And of course, this is the quote that we're all talking about in this subject, which is, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heavens." And that's Ecclesiasticals, obviously. I say to people a lot, and I don't know how many of you need to hear this, but I really honestly believe that your speed is the right speed for you. You will never do things as quickly as other people, maybe, you know, because you're a different personality. You will do it when you're ready. I get a lot of people saying, I can't believe that she doesn't understand this, at her age. And I'm going, but be compassionate here. Maybe she hasn't had the learning that you've had. And I say that because so many of us didn't get the sort of learning that we spend time learning now. How many of you find that learning the things that we do on the broadcast has, changed your life in some way or another? That, just by the fact that we talk about these things. But do you also find that suddenly you realize that other people don't understand what you understand now? And that is something to be aware of. And it's not that they're stupid, because you weren't stupid. It's about they just haven't had the same learning. They haven't had me drilling it every week. And so I say be compassionate, that everybody's going at their own speed. It might not be fast enough for you, or it might be too slow for you, or whatever. I've also started to say, because I've noticed now that, cognitively, I'm not quite as sharp as I was in certain ways. And I find that I no longer sort of feel badly about saying, I wonder if we can slow this down a little bit, because you're going at the rate that I used to be able to process, and I want to slow it down a bit. I want to make sure I understand. I want to have time to write down notes so I can look at them later and make sure I understood this. And I actually have a book that I carry with me, by the way, and it's called Sal's Brain. You know what I mean? And when I meet people, I'll take a business card and I'll literally ask for a stapler, and I'll staple that business card into the book. And then I'll write any notes that I want to about, what's going on. And then that way, later I go, I know I discussed that with that guy. Let me have a look. What was his name? And what did we discuss? And I've got all the notes, that are there. The ones that are important, not obviously everything we talked about, but things that I wanted to remember. So I think that's really important, that you do things at your speed. Now, your speed may be faster than the average duck on the pond, or it may be slower than the duck on the pond. I always say to people, just imagine that you are a duck, which is, ducks swim on the water and they look so calm, don't they? And yet their feet are going like this. Yeah. So it's like, it's like, try and keep some level of serenity on the external bit. And if you can, try and paddle a little slower underneath it all as well. All right, so this one may blow your mind a little bit. So get ready for this one. Take a deep breath. This one says, everything we do in life, is it not just a game? How many of you can see that a lot of your life really was, you thought it was so important, and you thought it was, I have to get this right today, and and all these control things. And then when you look back on it 10 years later, you go, wow, it really didn't make a whole lot of difference. I thought it was so important, but it really didn't make a whole lot of difference. And so I would ask you to be in the flow when you can. All right, this one is a lovely quote, and it's from Leonardo da Vinci. Every now and then, go away. Have a little relaxation, for when you come back to your work, your judgment will be surer, since to remain constantly at work will cause you to lose power of judgment. Go some distance away, because the work appears smaller and more of it can be taken in at a glance. and the lack of harmony or proportion is more readily seen. You know, for a man that spent so much of his life being so disciplined, the fact that Leonardo da Vinci said, you know, take a break. See your life from the outside in. How many of you have not had a break this year? How many of you have just, you know, doggedly been going one day after another and then, you know, I really would ask you, because we're in July, half the year is gone. And I would really recommend that each of you, if you can, start thinking about, when can I take a break? When can I not have this life that I'm living go exactly the same another day? How can I just go and, you know, maybe go and sit in a park for a little while? Or let me go out and maybe go away for the weekend. Uh, because I do believe that that is true. You get a different perspective. I found going out and having lunch and then going, not coming straight home, but actually challenging myself to not say, okay, I've done my one thing for the day so I can go home. No, let me go on and let me go and see, you know, some more units. I found that just spending that much time away from home, when I got home, I actually was more energized. Do any of you know what I'm talking about? I was grateful to get home at a different level as well. A refocus, yes. And so, you know, I really would challenge you all to, um, you know, how can I get out of the day-to-day routine, even if it's for 24 hours? How can I do that? And you know, I know that we all have, well, I can't afford it and da 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 da, whatever the excuses are, but you know, maybe you can afford not to. So think about that. And this is another great quote that I would challenge you with. Change is never a loss. It is change only. I've got to remember that. What I am doing and what I'm going to be doing next is just change. Everything. So, and I've got to realize it's not a loss, it's just different. Um, and maybe better in some ways. And this is a very good one for us to, yeah, a opportunity to grow and become stronger, right? All right, listen up for this one, people. I'm sure that a lot of you will agree with this one. It says, if you would learn the secret of right relations, look only for the divine in people and things, and leave all the rest to God. If you would learn the secret of right relations, look only for the divine in people and things, and leave the rest to God. How many of you are going, wow? How much of our time do we waste on the negative? And if you think back on your week, you know, how much of your time was wasted on the negative? I don't know if any of you saw it, for example, but somebody left a comment on one of the broadcasts and, you know, was chastising me for the fact that I had called England the Brits, when of course England is England and Scotland is Scotland and Wales is Wales and Ireland is Ireland, and they together become the British Isles. You know, I grew up there. I know that. But it was really interesting that in that moment, this person was more appeared to be more concerned about educating me than the spirit of what I had intended to say. And so what I did was I totally acknowledged the fact that, I knew better. I come from those parts. I knew better and I worded it badly, but I really did hope that my intent and my congratulations, and sympathies were not lost. Because, if you only concentrate, I called them the Brits instead of the English. Right? Um, how sad. I was trying to commiserate with everybody that they hadn't made it through to the semi-finals or the finals. So anyway, never mind. But I wonder how many times do we find the negative rather than the positive? How many times do we get picky on that? I'm guilty of it, I must admit. And so I'm going to work hard this week on just looking at the good stuff and not worry so much about the wrong stuff. This is a nice one as well. We can only be here now when we accept instantly our moment-to-moment emotional experience. We can only be here now when we accept instantly our moment-by-moment emotional experience. And that's why I say to people, sometimes you can go back and listen to, a vlog maybe that was done a year ago and you go, wow, I never heard her say that. How come I missed that? But you were in a different space a year ago and you would have heard it differently. And I was in a different space a year ago. Maybe I said it differently. Does that make sense? So one of the reasons why we need the repetition of good thoughts is because we need to hear it at the right time when we're ready to hear it. How many of you have noticed that people that sell television sets and refrigerators and those what I call white goods, have you noticed how they advertise morning, noon, and night? Have you noticed that? They seem to do a lot more advertising than certain other things. And there's a reason for that. Hi there, Lolo. Welcome. And the reason that they do that is because they need to make sure that when you wake up to the fact, oh my gosh, I need a new fridge today, that they had the advertising in front of you. I wonder if that makes sense to you. Because they know that, we can think about buying a new TV, but the day it goes on the fritz, when the Wimbledon final is about to play, is the day you walk out and you don't just get a new TV, you get the big one, right? Because you want to watch Wimbledon and you're a big fan, or you want to watch the World Cup. So you might say, well, to watch movies, I can get this size, but I want to see whatever it is, and your TV just broke. And so that is why they do that constant advertising, because they've got to catch you on the day when you make that decision. So they are in there now. Does it make sense? Because how many have done that where you're thinking, okay, if I replace my dishwasher, I'm going to get the da 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 da. And yet when you actually get it, you don't get that one at all. I am pretty certain that half the reason that I am doing all this research is because I know what I think I want, but it's pretty obvious to us all that I haven't found exactly what I want, or else I wouldn't still be looking. Does that make sense? You think about that. If I had found the place that, absolutely, that's okay, that's it, totally. And then, I wouldn't still be looking. And I am well aware of that. And I understand I may never find the perfect place as well. All right, where are my perfectionists? Can I get a show of hands, please? How many of you are perfectionists? It's a really important thing to own up to. So this quote is for you. The greater the emphasis on perfection, the further it recedes. I actually think the word should be farther, as in FAR, but never mind. The greater the emphasis on perfection, listen to me being a perfectionist, the further it recedes. How many of you have found that to be true? The more you try to do something perfectly, the less likely you are to actually achieve it. So my wish for you this week is that you just do things. Yeah, I've always said to people, excellent is good enough, really. You know, don't worry about perfection. Excellent is good enough. And again, I sit there and I go, okay, I can do something like this, and I could sit and I could tear this apart for a long time, right? And yet, by the time I've got it all varnished and got the back painted beautifully and so forth, the chances are it's going to look pretty darn good. And so this is like excellent is good enough, really. Don't do things to do them perfectly. Do them because you enjoy it. Charlotte's saying it wears away at you the deeper it goes. Fights and non-compatibility. Yeah, it's like I I am so aware that we need to do things to our own standard, not to somebody else's. Now, if you did something and it was pretty good and it's better than you've done it before, I think we need to be happy. The fact that we're not a Van Gogh or Van Gogh, depending on how you talk about him, but if isn't important. We're not Leonardo da Vinci, nor do we want to be, right? So it's like, what if we just did things because it gave us pleasure and we enjoyed that? I go back. I think I said this last week or the week before. Think about children. When children go out to play, they go out to have fun. Now, they probably want to be able to maybe skateboard and not fall off as much, or to climb the jungle gym without falling off or whatever. But, they're not into perfection. They're into, can I do it a little bit better? Let me go and play. And I would recommend that this week, play a little more. All right, so here's another one for you. That which oppresses me, is it my soul trying to come out into the open, or the soul of the world knocking at my heart for its entrance? All right. That which oppresses me, is it my soul trying to come out in the open, or is it the soul of the world knocking at my heart for its entrance? The things that depress us, is it our standard or somebody else's? Jodi's giving a very honest quote here from her life, and I want to read it because I'm certain a lot of people, both here and on the replay, will relate to it. Jodi said, Lionel, that's her husband, gets tired of hearing me criticize my own cooking. He'll say, this is fantastic, and I'll give 10 reasons it could be better. The yes, but, right, Jodi? You go, yeah, but, I didn't do the sauce quite well enough, or I forgot to add this in, or not just thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. The other thing I find that I needed to change a lot was that people would say, oh, I really like that top you're wearing. And I'm going, this one? Gosh, I bought this at Walmart 10 years ago, or whatever. All right. Instead of saying, oh, I'm glad about that. And stop. Yes, Charlotte saying 2 words. Just say thank you. Yes, Amy. And Amy's saying the same thing. She's saying that the man in her life, Kim, gets mad at her for doing that. So how many of us know we need to work on that this week? When I do it a lot, Amy, when people say to me, "Oh gosh, Sal, you're so talented," and I go, "No, well, not really," and but to them, I am. I find that when my friend Patty, the realtor, introduces me to people, um, what she says about me embarrasses me. Do any of you know what I mean? She'll go, not only is she a YouTube with only over 1 million people, blah, 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 but also, with over 1 million views or whatever, but also she is an artist, and also she is and does this, and this, and I actually get quite embarrassed. But when I go home and think about it, she didn't tell any lies. But why am I embarrassed? Yeah, Amy's saying, that Kim, the man in her life, is just happy when she wants to learn to cook, how to cook, and give him a break when he's not feeling too good. I think that's wonderful. I actually didn't think I was a cook at all, by the way. I didn't think I inherited those genes until I started to cook for Yvonne Wade and her daddy. Because, I just never saw myself as a cook, because in my household, cooking was a 5-course meal with all the silver, candelabra, all the right, place settings, 5 place settings, probably 3 or 4 different glasses lined up and all sorts of things. That was cooking, not what can I make tonight that tastes good. Yes, and that's interesting, Charlotte. Yes, Charlotte's saying that I feel embarrassed because to me it's second nature, and to others it's unique and awesome. All right, yeah, but Charlotte, is it not true that we do the same with you? In other words, we watch you running your 5K, and we are in awe of your dedication and so forth. But I I get a sense that you do it because you love it, not because, oh, bully for me, I've got the discipline to go out and run. I really get the sense that you get great joy out of doing it. And that's why you do it. And I think that's okay. Okay, the secret to good Yorkshire puddings, Jody, put in 1 egg per person. If you're cooking enough Yorkshire pudding for 5 people, put in at least 5 eggs. And actually, I normally do 1 for everyone and 1 on top. I don't know why. But Yorkshire puddings rise because of the eggs. Hi, Boob. Good to see you. So, yes. And so you look at it, and the funny thing is, Jody, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but I literally had somebody write to me and say, those aren't Yorkshire puddings. And I go, yeah, actually they are. Yorkshire pudding doesn't look like that. And I go, yeah, actually it does. I come from England, so I know. And I'm going, yeah, so do I. And I grew up with them, so I know what it looks like. But some people, my mom always cooked Yorkshire pudding in a pan, 1 Yorkshire pudding, and she cut it. I like to do mine in muffin trays because then you get more crispy bits. I like the crispy bits of Yorkshire pudding. All right, so here we go, everybody. Get ready for this one. Why destroy your present happiness by a distant misery, which may never come at all? For every substantial grief has 20 shadows, and most of those shadows are of your own making. Why destroy your present happiness by a distant misery which may never come at all? The what if monster, right? Yeah, I know I'm quite happy doing this, but what if I've waited too long and da 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 da, right? Don't do that to yourself. For every substantial grief has 20 shadows, and most of the shadows are of your own making. Let go of the what if monsters this week. And talking about cooking, does anybody want to know what I'm doing for dinner tonight? Because mm. um, I found there was a special on lamb, and I love lamb. I grew up eating lamb because I came from England originally, and well, actually, I was originally born in Holland, but never mind. So I bought some ham. Now I know that Wade downstairs loves ham and never cooks it because he's the only one that likes it. So whenever I get it in my mind to cook lamb, good night, Charlotte. Thank you for being here. I also cook it for Wade. And so what I did was I said to Yvonne, just want to let you know I'm cooking lamb for Wade and myself. And you can have, and I gave her a choice. She can have, I would do prawns for her or chicken or a steak or whatever. It was just like, I just know that we're having lamb. And by the way, what I'm doing is I was going to do them on the barbecue, but I actually, they're cut very, very thin. And what I decided to do was I'm actually slow cooking them so they'll be really tender and hopefully very tasty. And I'm slow cooking them in a mint gravy type sauce. In other words, it's got soya sauce in it. It's got a little bit of balsamic vinegar. It's obviously got mint in it, and it's got something else. Oh, Worcestershire sauce. Yes, mint sauce. Yeah, exactly, Linda. You understand. And then with mashed potatoes and peas, because I don't think that anything better than mint, the lamb, mashed potatoes and peas with oodles of gravy. But that's just my personal thing. So and then I think I'm doing chicken Kiev for Yvonne. She gets that. Do you know what that is? That's chicken with cheese and ham inside it. And I happen to have a couple of those, so I thought I'd do one of those for her. And then for Papa, I'm doing some pork, I think. So, it's like I'm cooking 3 meals this evening. How many of you think that is insane? You see, to me, it's not insane. To me, it's like I cook to bring other people pleasure. So what do I know? I know that Papa downstairs will want to make a soup type dish. So I will take some pork because I know he really likes the pork and actually liquidize it a bit and make it into a thick soup so it's easy for him to eat. He's well into his 80s, by the way. And then, for Yvonne, I'll do the chicken Kiev. And I also did, because I know Yvonne very well, I also did vegetables. I think I did zucchini and yellow zucchini, whatever that's called. Yellow zucchini, probably. Yellow zucchini and broccoli in a cheese sauce, because Yvonne and Wade love that when I do that. In a white sauce with a cheese sauce. So that's going down. And peas I will do. I think those sort of vegetables in a white sauce or a cheese sauce always taste much better. If you want me to eat my vegetables, let me have it in a cheese sauce, and I will probably go back for seconds. How many of you believe that success is a journey, not a destination? Half the fun is getting there. Now, whether that is learning how to cook or finding a new home or whatever it is in life, right? We need to see that the journey, we need to enjoy the journey. Not worry so much about the other end of it. Just enjoy every moment that you can. Now, this, a lot of you will relate to. My life is a performance for which I was never given any chance to rehearse. How many of you feel like that? My life is a performance for which I was never given any chance to rehearse. How many of you felt that about becoming parents, for example? Or I sometimes think that, even adopting a dog, it was like, how can we do this without learning anything first? We just get to go out there and go and grab, a pet because we think it's a fun thing to do. And then you find out actually it is fun, but it's also a lot of hard work. And so to me, it's like, what other things in life did you not have time to rehearse? It's like, I don't know why, but it reminds me a lot of, I've done a lot of, uh, non-female type things, I guess you could say. I don't know why, but it brings up for me that the first time I was building I wanted to build um, an extra cupboard in my bedroom, and I sort of plotted it out on paper and worked out roughly what the measurements would be. And I had this sort of not brilliant drawing, but I had a pretty good idea, because now I knew I needed two bits of plywood that were this big, and then I needed a door, and I needed and I had it all measured out and everything. And I went to the local wood supply store, and I said, I wonder if you can help me. I need these cut. And he said, do you think your husband needs, and I can't remember what it was. And I said, you know something? I have no idea, because, we've been divorced about 10 years and he's not building a cupboard. I am. You're building this cupboard? You understand this was probably, this was probably 40 years ago, right? And he, he said, how? And I said, what? And he said, how are you going to build it? And I said, well, probably the same way as men do. I well, how will you make sure that it's straight or whatever? I said, probably the same way men do. That's called a spirit level, I believe. Little thing with a bubble in it that tells me whether it's straight or not. Is that what it's called? And he said, well, yes. And he said, well, why don't you build it? And then when you finish building it, take the measurements and we'll cut the door to fit what's left. Now, was this man convinced? Was he convinced that I was going to be able to make something? Apparently not. And so what I did was I went, okay, I'll play your game, no problem. And I went home and I built with the bits that I had. And when I finished, I went back with the same drawing. I said, could I have my door now? And he said, no, I told you to take the measurements after you've built it. I said, yeah, I have. And he said, and you've still got it the same way? And I said, yeah. How did you do that? And I'm going, yeah, boobs, with a square and a level. That's how I did it. Well, where did you learn to do that? I said, probably the same place. In those days, we didn't have YouTube. Probably the same place that you did. I read about it. Like, really? But I cannot tell you how many times I had that happen to me. Well, does your husband want? I have no idea what he wants. He's long out of my life. But I'm the one that's doing this. So I would challenge you as well to what is it you've always wanted to do but you never have, because maybe men aren't meant to do that. I tell a story about a man that I met in Orange County Airport, John Wayne country, I call it. And this guy was amazing. He sat in the airport doing needlepoint. Now, how many of you are just rolling your eyes? What self-respecting man sits in an airport and does needlepoint, complete with a hoop, and he's busy doing his needlepoint? And the person next to me said, "Can you believe that?" In judgment. And I went, "Smart guy." And the person next to me said, "What do you mean, smart guy?" I said, "Have you seen how many women are talking to him?" Smart guy. And they went, "I never thought of it like that." I said, "Yeah. You see, the fact he's doing needlepoint makes him not a threat." I've had people visit my garage in the days when it was properly set up, which it isn't anymore, and they would literally, they say to me, "Do you happen to have a router? Because I just need to do something." I go, "Yeah, what size? What? I've got 4 of them. What size do you want? Do you want a little Dremel, or do you want a dirty kick-ass one? It's because I've got 4 different size ones depending on what you need done." You got 4 routers? Who has 4 routers? I do. Um, it's just like it was a hobby of mine for a while. I made a lot of things. And I had to have all the gizmos. For those of you who know me well, I had to have the gizmos. I'm allowed. To me, it's a bit like cooking, where I've literally had people come for dinner and they go, "Oh gosh, what, what did you put in here? This is amazing. What did you put in here?" And please don't ask me. And they go, "What? Please don't ask me what I put in there." No, I don't have a drill doctor to sharpen the drill bits, but I do have a biscuit cutter, and I have a what do you call it? Biscuit cutter and a dovetail thing, and I also have an angled screw thing. It's like I don't have a drill doctor because, quite honestly, if I wanted a sharper drill bit, I'd probably go and buy another one. But that's just, yeah. But good question. I need this one. Okay. Learn to be silent. Let your quiet mind listen and absorb. Pythagoras said that. Learn to be silent. Let your quiet mind listen and absorb. That's a very big one for me. How many of you relate to that? How many of you promise yourself, "I am not going to talk as much next time"? Yeah, boob. Not only the dovetail making, I've got the chop saws and you know. Yeah, Amy, I was saying at lunch yesterday when I was there, there are times when I know I should keep my mouth shut. But after 70 years on this planet, I know that time may never come. do, do any, and I sort of accept it now. I got myself into so much trouble from opening my mouth um, that I keep saying to myself, I really am going to go there and not say anything. And I go, who are you kidding? I don't have that self-control. So, Amy, it's okay. It's like, and what I found out, Amy, is a lot of people actually are very grateful that you do because they didn't want to ask the dumb question that you just did. They were too embarrassed to ask that question. But, you and I have no problem about asking that question. Yes, Jody, you try so hard. I don't know about you, but there's so many times where I'm going, couldn't I just have closed my mouth before those words tumbled out, and kept them in? No. It's like, yeah. So, but there's part of me that goes, Amy, the reason you are who you are is because you do that. Probably the reason you attract certain people is you have the courage to say what you think. And Jody, I'm pretty sure if you talk to Lionel, one of the things, which I know you do, but one of the things that probably attracted you to him was the fact that you were somebody that had opinions and was prepared to talk about them. Would that be true? Yes, Amy, absolutely agree. For those of you listening on the rebroadcast of this, listen to what Amy said because she is so correct. It's because I want to learn, and the only way I can is to ask questions, whether they are dumb or not. I totally agree with you. Yeah, I live on a street and there is a dog on the street that's not happy. Probably somebody else is walking on his street. You know what dogs are like, you do not belong on my street. And he's saying, go away, probably using different words in bark language. I agree with you, Boob, that the only dumb question is the one that you didn't bother to ask. Yes. And I cannot tell you how many times I have asked the dumb question and even had people laugh about it. And then had the person who was at the front of the room answering the questions come to me later and said, I'm so glad you asked the question. And I'm going, why? Everybody laughed at me. And they said, no, you don't know how many people want you to ask that question, Sal. You were the only one that had the guts to ask it. Everybody else wanted to pretend they already knew the answer. And I went, thank you. And they said, no, you keep asking questions. You will learn a lot that way. Just you. And so, Amy, keep asking questions, honey. It's your life. And it's really important that you do. I think I cannot encourage people enough to ask that question that you want to ask. And it's, you know what I say to audiences whenever I'm up on stage and I've got audiences, I say, feel free to ask me questions from the audience. By the way, if you don't want to be the dumb person that asks the question, get that talkative one next to you on board. Tell them what your question is because they don't have any fear of looking stupid. And, they'll all go, yeah, that's me. And I go, yeah, I know. I'm one of them. Yeah, I really want to tell you that I have no wish to even think about what the value of pi is to 20 digits, right? It's like I'll ask somebody who cares. I don't. And so to me, it's Amy, the point that you understand that who you are is good enough. All right. That is something that I keep saying to viewers, which is understand that who you are is good enough. That, I am certain that you know more about some things than the smart ass that is next to you. I am pretty certain that you know less about something else than the person on the other side of you. But that doesn't make any of the three of you stupid. It just means you have different interests. I know that, for example, when I was talking to this 23-year-old, and I was interested because he didn't bother to ask me, why do I want a toy hauler? Why does a 70-year-old want a toy hauler, right? And I said, you haven't asked the question, and I would recommend that you think about why you haven't, because it's really important why I need a toy hauler. And he said, well, actually, I did wonder. And I said, learn to ask. Because the answer I'm about to give you might make a difference to what you show me next. And he said, okay. Why do you want a toy hauler? I said, I'm an artist. I want a room I can throw paint around in and close a door and not worry about the fact that it's a mess in there. And I want it in a luxury RV. So a toy hauler makes a lot of sense to me. And he went, wow, that makes a lot of sense. I said, yes, but then it also brings about the fact that I need it to be warm, or, I need it to be an all-season garage, not a, partially warm, because it's going to be metal and that'll be cold. So I need to make sure that there's enough heating to it and, those sort of things. And, it was really interesting because his whole way of dealing with me after that was different. Why? He then would go into the next one and go, Sal, you're probably going to like this because this has got a door that you can close and cover up everything, but also it's got enough room for you to be able to paint in here. And I'm going, you see what a difference it makes? Now it's personal. So I said, please, if you've got a client that is going, let me see how big that garages. There's got to be a reason why a woman at 70 wants a toy hauler. And for sure it isn't because she's got an ATV that she wants to run around in, or pretty likely. But maybe it's the golf cart because she's a golfer. Maybe I want to carry my golf cart with me everywhere. But ask the question, because it's not normal for a 70-year-old to want a toy hauler. Am I correct? And he went, very, very correct. And I said, yeah. So ask the question so you can know. Yeah. Boob, I want to say that there's one there's one quite well-known person that will never say, I don't know. They will concoct an answer even if it's wrong. And I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but he's fairly high up in your system. Like, I cannot imagine that person admitting they are wrong, even when they were. What I find really interesting is that they can be on tape saying 1 and 1 equals 3, and then be on tape 10 minutes later saying, no, that's fake news. I didn't say that. And you're going, you just said it. You just said it word for word. No, I didn't say that. It's fake news. You're going, we've got it on tape. No, I didn't say that. Yeah, it's not what I meant. Wow. And by the way, I would like to say to that person, if you didn't bother to know the protocol on how to deal with a queen of a country, then shame on you. If you didn't know that it was against all protocol to turn your back on a queen, then shame on you. If you didn't know how to inspect the guard when you knew you were going to inspect the guard, then shame on you. Because I am certain that the protocol people would have gone out of their way to tell you. And I'm certain you told them, I don't need that. I know what I'm doing. And the guard, the honor guard that was there, deserved for you to do it correctly. To me, the greater insult, I know the Queen probably just, went home and laughed about it. You can't imagine what he did, except it's on tape. But I felt sorry for the honor guard, because how many of you noticed how long he kept her waiting? He was meant to arrive at a certain time, and she stood there for what, 20 minutes? Like, yikes. And you know that the call didn't come in to warn the Queen that he was 20 minutes late, because she would not have come out that early. Yeah, I'm afraid so. All right, let me not get onto that subject. Every issue, belief, attitude, or assumption is precisely the issue that stands between you and your relationship with another human being, and between you and yourself. And, this is quite funny, because I happen to be talking about what I did just now, because I have a number of viewers that are very strong supporters of the president. And I actually asked one of them because they were writing to me about something. And what did I ask? Oh, how did they feel? Because you know me, seek first to understand. So I said, how did you feel? Because I know you're a big supporter. How do you feel about your president having a private meeting with Vladimir Putin, where there will be no record of what gets said, discussed, or bargained, or set up, or whatever? How do you feel about that? And the answer I got was he's a very savvy businessman and he knows what he's doing. And I'm going, okay. To me, that's not my answer. You know, I really, it scares the life out of me. What on earth? Anyway, I get very worried. None of my business because it's not my country, but I am allowed an opinion. So here's a nice one that I need to remember. Perfect kindness acts without thinking of kindness. Jody, when I read that, I think of you. I do believe that, you know, that you probably give me 10 reasons why it's not true, but I do believe that would be a fair description of you. And how many of you know people that that does describe, or how many of you think that maybe it describes you? And yes, I agree that, you know, kindness is not something you do just because you think about it. Kindness is something that is in your blood, I believe. So, you know, I had somebody say to me not so long ago, somebody I'm going to meet this coming week, funny enough. And she said to me, oh, I've heard so many good things about you. And I said, you know, did that person who told you those good things tell you about my bitch from hell? And she said, what? And I said, because I got one inside me too, you know. There are days when I do nice things, but you know, I am not an, you know, I don't I don't come with a halo and wings. You know, I've got this bitch from hell that comes out every now and then. Um, so you know, to me, I think the joy of getting to this age is that I am comfortable with both of them. Right? You know what I mean? I really understand that I am not a perfect person and I've got good parts of me and I got some that I'm not too proud of, but I am okay with both of them. I mean, there are times when I go, oh, I wish I hadn't said that. Amy, you probably relate to it. I wish I hadn't said that. And then there are days I go, I'm glad I did. Have you ever said, I know this one, forgive me for this one because it's not very kind, but have you ever said to somebody, I don't want you to take this personally. Actually, yes, I do. And then gone ahead and told them. Or I don't want to pry. Actually, that's not true. I really do want to pry. And, you know, I find when I do that, people, you know, just burst out laughing. I go, I don't want to pry. Yeah, actually, yeah, I do. You know, because because to me, it's like, yeah. And, you know, I don't want you to take this personally. Well, yeah, actually, I do. So that's the sort of thing Marnie and I, when we're talking to each other, Marnie will go, you know, I don't want you to be upset with it. Yeah, actually, yeah, I do. You know, it's just like, and I love it. It's so honest and so raw and so, you know, so normal to my mind. And I think that's why I really enjoy my conversations. You know, Dougie and I were halfway through talking about all my stuff, and he started talking politics, and I'm going, before we start this, can we just check what time it is now and what time you have to leave, because I know once he and I start talking politics, it's going to be take a while. Amy, is it a bad thing that you don't care? That you don't care if they take it personally, or you don't care about what? Something, Amy? Can I tell you something I believe? And I'm happy to be perfectly wrong. I believe that you, Amy, care a darn sight more than most people know. But I also believe that at some level you have put up this very good wall and you pretend that you don't. I could be totally wrong. But I think your survival, that the way you survived what happened, and by the way, I apologize, Amy. The next time that we have you on, I really would like you to talk a bit about your why you're in a wheelchair. But I've just seen what the time is, and oops. Yeah, Amy, that's, my feeling about you is you're a tough nut. You're like Aaron, you're a tough nut in some ways, but you are also a very sensitive nut in others. You came out tough because you need to be able to protect yourself, because there are some idiot people out there. And so I don't buy, and you'll forgive me for this, but I actually don't buy that you don't care. I'm sorry. I would love to tell you that I believe you, but I cannot say that I do. I don't think there's anything in my knowledge of you to date. Okay, fine, I lied. How many of you burst out laughing? Yeah, that's what Amy said. Okay, fine, I lied. Love it. On that very happy note, I hope you've enjoyed Soul Sunday. And I hope that something in one of the quotes resonated with you. I really would encourage you all to have a better week this week in whatever way you want it to be better. I would like those of you who want to be creative to be creative. For those of you who need to laugh a bit more, go and laugh. And for those of you who want to be more organized, feel free to go and organize, but remember to relax. Remember that, take a break. I'm glad that you do, Boob, and I enjoy doing them for you. Because I think every time, I always say, if doing the broadcast helps one person in some way, then it was worth the time. So thank you, Boob, for that, because now I can go and get on with my life knowing that it was worth the time I took to do this. And to all of you, I want to thank you because you don't get the emails that I get, people. And they're from people that you've never heard of, who watch these on the replay and then write to me and thank me. And I just want you to know that the fact that you're here and interact and talk about stuff helps so many people that you will never know about. And people who are in a lot of emotional pain and in a lot of different situations. And it's because you're here and prepared to open up and talk about your stuff that they all learn. So thank you from the bottom of my heart on that one. Have a great week, everybody. Remember to look after one another. But as usual, please, 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 please start by looking after yourself. If you are not looking after yourself, then how can you look after others? This is DearMamaSal saying, I'm going to go and have lamb now. Yum. Bye-bye for now.